Greetings guys, Yui Emperor here. So as you all probably know, Tarkov has had a wipe, and that always means that there are a lot of people trying it out, whether new or old. And together with that, there's a ton of guides on what to do on day 1, and so on. A problem I've noticed with these guides is that although they can provide guidance to first-time players, most just stay surface-level meta solutions that don't help the newbie become a better player, but instead have to rely on gamey exploits. Things like use this type of ammo or right-hand peek only are all useful things to keep in mind for sure, but they will never teach you how to properly equip and prepare yourself for a raid or how to conduct yourself in a firefight. So I decided to also jump on the bandwagon and try to give my own set of tips, but also offer a few foundation level concepts that will help the overall mindset. But first, a few disclaimers. The aim of this guide is not just for this wipe, it is to establish good habits that will form a future-proof foundation. They will also work in any state of the wipe, be it day 1 or pre-wipe. These habits will improve solo play as well as team play, as everybody is going to be on the same page. Bonus points that these tips can also be used in other FPS games. But, and it's a big one, they will only work if you actively use them. Now, before we begin, please keep a lookout for the info cards I'll be posting within the guide, found in the top right of the screen. These are links to other guides or videos of mine that will give a more elaborate explanation of the concepts that I'll talk about here. I will also be linking them in the description for ease of access. Alright, let's begin. Before we get into the tips I want to show, we have to understand what Tarkov is all about. It has guns and modding, it has quests, loot, and awesome firefights, but what makes it stand out from any other FPS title is how it can make your heart race after a good raid. But why does it do that? Is it the guns you use, the loot you got, or is it the quest you completed? The answer is the train of emotions you rode to get through those firefights, to get that loot out of the raid, aka to survive. And that needs to be emphasized. Tarkov is all about survival. There is nothing more disappointing in Tarkov than to have your raid cut short because of an unknown threat, or losing all of your hard-earned quest items because you failed to extract in time. Therefore, our number one and most important priority that forms our mindset is to survive. Your objective is to escape from Tarkov. Right now, it's to extract from the raid, but basically, do not die at all. A good way to do that is to understand your limits. Do not get in a situation that you're unprepared to face, or unable to face. If you only have a pistol and go against an armored PMC, well, don't wonder why you died. Another thing to prevent disaster is to equip yourself for things that can happen before they happen. A just-in-case concept, if you will. A common use of this concept for me is to take double the medical equipment I bring in a raid in order to be able to survive more firefights. It is not necessary until it is, and when it is, it's usually a life or death situation. So, to sum it up, whatever you do, whether it be looting, shooting, questing, or otherwise, has to be with the intention of surviving. And that's the number one thing I see people disregarding. I mean, I get it, it's a game at the end of the day, and supposed to be fun, but a very big portion of this game's fun factor comes from struggling and surviving a great raid. And here's what I want to quote what Nikita Buyanov, the lead dev of Escape from Tarkov, wants us to experience with this game. In real life, you have moments which are very stressful and frustrating to go through at the time, and yet you think of them fondly after they have passed. In games, you usually play something and get immediate happiness, but then it's forgotten immediately after you're done. I want Tarkov to be that life experience that stays with you, that gives you something to remember, something that was hard, but worth going through. And that is what I consider the fundamental difference between Tarkov and other FPS or survival games, and thus we need to approach the game from a different perspective. Alright, continuing. The second thing we need to include in our mindset is the checkpoint system. Now I've already made a guide on this, check the info card, so I won't go into how you use the system or why. Instead, I'll explain how getting into the habit of checkpointing yourself can help you avoid an early death. In high-stress situations, especially if you're not used to them, keeping track of certain things like your ammunition or medical status will be difficult, and it will usually lead to even worse moments. The checkpoint system is designed to end such a potential cascade of failures. Now, when I say checkpointing myself, I mean taking a moment to consider my options before making my next move. Things like checking a mag before pushing an enemy, or making sure you eat and drink before taking a painkiller that might dehydrate you mid-fight, are all things that can increase your chances of survival. And I think this is a good moment to mention. Survival is all about increasing your chances. You can never have a 100% guarantee. You can only prepare yourself as much as you can, so don't neglect to do so. And this is reinforced even further by remembering that Tarkov is a team-based game. Your chances of survival are greatly decreased when solo. So keep in mind that you're always going to be at a disadvantage when you're solo, so prepare accordingly. And preparation should start from your stash, way before you get in raid. This is for both equipment and goals. For the equipment part, check the video for more details, but pretty much it follows the just-in-case concept. For the goal part, it is mandatory to have an idea of what you want to do in the raid. That will dictate your moves, your equipment type, and your mission profile. If, for example, your objective is to grab an item, the mission profile will not require you to get into heavy fights, so you don't need to pick said fights, and you can pack lighter gear. And if said mission is in an open area, you should use a long gun with some kind of optic. The right tools for the right job. Alright. The above, together with the other videos, should be enough to give you a basic understanding on how to approach Tarkov, as well as form the basis of your mindset. Now, we'll talk about a few things that you can use together with your mindset in order to increase your survival chance. There's a lot to cover, and I still want to keep things as brief as possible, so I will try to skim through. First is how to prepare your equipment and stash. Organize your items into areas. Even if you do have cases, set up your stash in a way that you always know where each item you'll need is. Medical items in a medical area, mod weapons in another, and so on. Sell most of the stuff you can buy again, like AI2s, to save space. Stuff you can't buy yet, like a suppressor or a scope, you keep and use when needed. Quest items the same. Every time you're about to go on a raid, do a pre-raid kit check, making sure you got everything you need, less chance you forget something. Now, when it comes to movement and maneuvering in a hostile zone, have at least 2 angles passively covered. A single person can only protect himself from so many angles on his own, so positioning yourself in a way that your, let's say, rear and right side are covered by a wall allows you to only have to care about your front and left, and so on. Whenever moving through an open or otherwise dangerous area, be as quick as possible. Try to break line of sight from potential threat areas as much as you can. For example, if there's a sniping position you know of, try to keep vegetation between the two of you, as it's harder for them to shoot you through a bush. Are you lost? Look out for at least 3 landmarks and triangulate your position. Things like a huge mountain, or a known location like, say, lumber mill in woods, or a village. All those are good ways to find out where you are. Next up is how to loot and manage resources. Don't dive in to loot the moment you see a body. Understand that getting killed while looting means 0 loot and 0 progress. Secure the area, then loot. Especially when it's a body that you did not kill and it's not looted yet. Loot priority. Loot that helps you survive a raid, like meds, grenades, or better weapons and armor, are far more important than random money items. Then come quest items, then come random loot. Don't be greedy. Loot can always be regained, but all of your equipment you had on you, that you couldn't get out of the raid in time because of over-encumbrance? Gone. Next up is about what to do when you need to medicate. Bear with me, the firefight part comes right after. When wounded in a firefight, your aim is to end the firefight first, then heal. But understand when you need to fully heal or just stabilize. A light bleed during a firefight can be ignored. A heavy bleed cannot. Same with a fracture that does not allow you to run, or a blacked out stomach. Prioritize which area to heal in preparation for another firefight. Head and thorax are much more important than damaged limbs when another PMC is around the corner. And now, how to conduct yourself properly in combat. This will be a bit longer a segment than the rest, but it's still not an elaborate list. Remember that your objective is always to survive. I'd like to hope I'm not in the minority here when I say that being alive after a huge firefight is much more awesome than getting killed, right? But some people have a hard time spotting the enemy. Spotting, for experienced players, is not just a simple, "Ah, I see him, he's there." Instead, it is a combination of situational awareness, aka what's going on around me, of understanding player tendencies, aka where they're going to be when I'm there, and also a habit of not just looking straight in front of them and expecting people to walk into their line of sight. Instead, they check the environment for good positions or known travel paths. And the other thing is, when spotting a player, make sure you engage when you are at the maximum of your advantage and the enemy's disadvantage, like attacking when they're in the open without any cover. On the contrary, when attacked, do not fight if you're at a disadvantage. Do not overextend. Things like orbiting out of cover to duel an enemy or chasing an enemy you think you almost got could lead you to your death. Do not underestimate. Whether it's a PMC, scav, or otherwise, do not underestimate your opponent. Treat everyone, even AI, as real threats. Go through all the motions you would as if you were fighting a player. Always try to reposition when fighting. Freezing and staying static in a firefight is the worst possible move you can make, especially when fighting multiple opponents. Instead, try to find more angles to attack from, and always expect an enemy flank. And for the love of Nikita, do not fight an ego battle. I cannot count how many times I've seen this happening. You do not need to engage in a battle to out-damage or out-aim a person. This is not a joust, it is a modern firefight. Fight from cover, fight smart, fight dirty. Your objective is to survive. If there is a battle you're not confident in, do not take it. There is no medal or achievement to be gained by committing suicide. Remember, all of what I said above are things you need to keep in mind and make a habit. This video will not magically make you a better player. It is a guide to offer you good habits that make up said better player. And you should not worry about the start on day one or you're all doomed bullshit. You will be able to do everything no matter what state the wipe is in. Tarkov is an open-ended game. There is no reason to compete against other players. The only thing you need to do is to survive and escape from Tarkov. That is the only thing you need to do. Plus, the equally important concept of having fun. And if your concept of fun is the same as mine, then you understand that dying without having done anything is pretty much anything but fun. And I think this is pretty much a good amount of tips to get you started. I will be making some more videos to elaborate on the points above, and if you have anything you need me to cover, let me know in the comments. If you found it helpful, it would be nice to share this video with others. I would also appreciate a like and a sub. I hope you guys have a great time in Tarkov. It is a gem of a game, and honestly one that I have been thoroughly enjoying all these years. Thank you for watching. UE Emperor, out.